Let's unbox the Funko Pop vinyl figure of Watto from the Phantom Menace. Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there, thanks for visiting Varykino. Of course, last year, back in May 2024, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the release of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and I was really surprised, pleasantly, by the vast array of merchandise celebrating the anniversary. And of course, being a prequel fan, I tried to pick up as many pieces as I could, and that included the Funko Pop vinyl range of characters and figures from the film. So of course, my budget didn't stretch to cover everything I wanted. I did pick up the key favorite characters, but a few, like poor Watto here, had to go down the list, and I was recently able to pick him up on sale. He does have a little bit of shelfware to the box, but nevertheless, I'm really excited to finally add him to my collection. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, we'll get Watto out of the box and take a look at his details. He's got a little bit of a unique stand, but first, let's take one last look at the packaging. As a single character figure, Watto comes packaged in the iconic Funko Pop vinyl packaging. We have a black bar here for the white Star Wars logo that fades into red down the left here, and we also have red used for the number circle here. This is number 702, and we also have a little touch of gold here for the nameplate, which reads simply Watto there. We've got a fun little preview image there of Watto with his yellow eyes there and his unique little tooth, and of course that front window wraps around the side. You can see the style of packaging there. We've got a little bit of that sort of C shape rather than the clamshell, so we can see him fairly clearly through the front there, which is quite nice. We've also got a little bit of a preview there, the character name Watto and the number there 702. We also have that preview there on the top as well, and the left side is one of my favorite panels on every Funko Pop vinyl box. Now this one is particularly nostalgic because you can see we've kind of got this red and black starburst color, which of course is a really nice reference back to the original line of merchandising, particularly the action figures that were released 20 years ago for the original release of the Phantom Menace. I love seeing that design being reused here. It really ties in well to the original merchandising for Phantom Menace. We have the Pop logo here, a nice full image of Watto without his base, of course, the character nameplate and the number there. And again, we also have that red and black starburst on the back with the large Star Wars Episode 1, the Phantom Menace logo there, a preview of the Watto figure, and some of the other character Funkos released around the same time. We can see Anakin, Obi-Wan, Jar Jar, Padme, Watto, and a battle droid. It says to collect them all. I'm still missing a couple, but I'm hoping to pick them up very soon. So really nice tie-in. I love seeing that just iconic Phantom Menace packaging being reused all of these years later. It's just so fun. It's so nostalgic about the prequel era in terms of merchandising. It was just sort of a different time for Star Wars collectibles, so I really like seeing that nod back to the original packaging. But let's get Watto out because I really want to check out his details. As usual, I'm going to open up the box from the underside, opening up the cardboard flap, and let's pull out the clear plastic tray. Just taking a quick look at the cardboard insert packaged in behind him. Again, we've got that really nostalgic red and black starburst there. That's really nice, seeing more of that Phantom Menace era packaging design there. So now we've got Watto in his clear plastic tray. Going to take him out. This is always a little bit loud. Okay, so he looks really quite cool. They've captured his sort of grumpy expression really well. And now that I've got him out of the packaging, we can see that he actually has a nice clearer stand to give him an elevated appearance because of course he does fly. He generally doesn't stand on the ground. He does have 1 foot on the stand here, so that's kind of fun. They've kind of given him a little bit of a different sort of pose there. Of course, that 1 foot is not enough to elevate the figure completely, so we have a support stand. Let's quickly clear the packaging away so we can go over all of the details a little bit closer up. So Watto is quite a unique character. Of course, his species is Toydarian, first introduced on screen in The Phantom Menace, and he has a really unique design with a lot of painted details, which is fun to see on this Funko because, of course, Funko is kind of stylized, kind of simplified in some aspects, but I'm always really impressed with how many costume details Funko actually manages to include on these small figures. So I really like the pose that they have used for him here. So, of course, he He is lightly suspended on that one foot with the other foot in the air. It is not attached to the base, and we've got him fully flying. So I don't actually know if I would have preferred to have him completely suspended on it. I know that might have made him a little bit more prone to tipping over if sort of the heavy weight was suspended from here at the back. I know sometimes Funko does use a clearer stick on the underneath to sort of just keep that sort of center of gravity towards the center of the base and elevate him, but I kind of like the fact that it is clear and behind him rather than having something kind of between his legs. It might look a little bit unusual, so I do like this support structure, and I guess having his foot on the ground mean that he's not really going to sort of tip over or anything like that. So I do understand the pose. I think it's good, and I do really like the finger pointing pose here. It's something he does a lot in the Phantom Menace. He's doing a lot of pointing towards Qui-Gon. I think that that's really fun, and there's something that I often say about collectibles. I feel like they do the job of sort of capturing the character essence. If I can hear the dialogue, the voices in the character sort of accents and voices and things like that, and while I'm looking at this, I can hear Watto's voice as he's talking to Qui-Gon and gesturing sort of in a really grumpy tone. So I think Funko's done a really good job here. Now, something that really sort of caught my attention a little bit more once I got him out of the package is because he's an alien with a distinctive sort of head shape, he actually looks kind of smaller than the average Funko, because the humanoid Funkos have kind of more of a rectangular face. They're kind of wider. He's quite narrow in his head, so it gives him a much smaller appearance in terms of his actual size of his head there, but of course it's keeping in with his design, so it works well there. And of course he's also unique in the fact that he has yellow eyes, not the black round sort of traditional Funko eyes, so he does look quite different, especially when you get him out of the box and sort of away from the Funko packaging. He looks a little bit different. I'm really keen to sort of add him to my collection and see him amongst all of my other Star Wars Phantom Menace characters, but he is really detailed. I'm having a lot of fun looking at the paint job here. I think, looking at his head, I think he has just a really soft amount of shading going on here. It looks like there's just sort of something that's just toning down the blue. It's really subtle because it doesn't kind of, normally when a color is just sort of a flat blue, it kind of catches your eye that it just looks like a solid plastic, and I think I can sort of see just perhaps a little bit of mottling. It's really subtle, and I'm not really sure if it's my eyes, but there's just something about certain areas that look just a tiny bit darker. But let's go over the paint and details anyway. So he's so detailed, and I did see him on the shelf a couple of times before I finally picked him up because I noticed that there was a little bit of inconsistency with some of the paint jobs on this particular Funko. Some characters just seem to trip Funko up in terms of execution there. So the paint around his mouth is fairly tidy on this side, you can see there. But on this side, we've got just a tiniest little smudge going on there. Not so much that it would really bother me, but I have to say this was one of the better ones that I spotted. A few had sort of paint smears around his sort of nose or his sort of snout here, and I found that that bothered me when paint is sort of transferred onto sections that it shouldn't be. This one here is just a little tiny bit of a smudge. We've got a little bit of sort of flicking going on here, but I don't mind it too much, and I can kind of see why it's kind of caused a little bit of issue here, because we've got this sort of extra tooth sort of that looks like it's actually been glued into place rather than being part of the sculpt. Same with this one here. Those two teeth look like they are sculpted separately and then attached, so I can imagine that's going to add in a lot of complexity. The tooth on this side is part of the sculpt. It's a little bit smaller. It's probably easier for them to sort of paint and work around there. Moving on to the rest of the body, there is a lot of details going on here. Of course, he's got this sort of vest going on, lots of belts, all these sort of little greeblies and tools hanging off his belt here as well, and just a lot of color variation. If you look really close, there is kind of some striping going on here on his upper legs. He's got colored shading on the inside of his legs, that kind of airbrushed yellow. He's got purple between his toes. He's kind of got slightly sort of webbed feet there, and I think there's even a little bit of sort of like a yellow tone on the inside of his wings here, just really subtle. And again, like his thighs, we can see a little bit of sort of that blue mottling down his arms as well. He even has a painted fingernail on his pointed finger. His other one's in a fist, so we don't really see the fingernails much from the front, but if you look from the back, they are indeed painted here. Even though he's got his sort of clenched fist there, you can see some of the costume details fully painted here in the back, even though of course we've got that clear stand a little bit in the way, but we can see all of the details there. Just really impressed with the level of detail that they put in here. You can kind of see the yellow weathering here, not weathering, sort of shading here on his wing, a little bit better on his left side here, or his right, on the left side of the figure. Really nice, just so much detail. I was really happy to see Watto in the lineup for the Phantom Menace. He's not sort of very prominent in a lot of merchandise lines, despite the fact that he does appear in 2 Star Wars films. He does get a lot of dialogue on screen time. Of course, you do see him again in the Phantom Menace on Tatooine, in Attack of the Clones on Tatooine, which is really fun. Of course, he's wearing a hat and a little bit different in that one. So I just thought it was really fun. Sometimes I kind of wish that perhaps they would give I don't know quite how they would do motion blur. It almost looks just like a little bit odd to kind of have the static wings while he is suspended, because in the movie they're always kind of blurry and out of focus. But I know Funko's not really sort of into the sort of the action dynamic. We're not going to get sort of multiple wings to kind of give a blur there. So I do like the paint job on the wings there as well. Again, we've got that just slightly darker sort of finish there, giving us a little bit of surface detail so it's not too flat. And we've even got lots of sort of wrinkles and textures over his body as well. He's not a smooth skinned creature. He does look a little bit old. You know, we've got a lot of sort of wrinkles around his eyes, everything like that. Just a lot of detail. It's really quite interesting, because I know that when it comes to collectible merchandising and things like that, it's cheaper for companies to sort of reuse parts and stuff like that, but there's nothing on Watto that can be reused for other characters. This isn't like Stormtrooper bodies and Clone Trooper bodies where they can sort of reuse sculpting elements here. He is completely unique, you know. There just aren't many other sort of major characters that are Toydarians that would appear in collectible lines. So it's just really neat to see just how much detail and effort they have put into rendering him in this collection. Just looking at his forehead and around his eyes, I do think I am picking up just a little bit of shading around there. It's really subtle, but I do think it's there. That's really quite impressive to see. And of course, we do have the Star Wars logo printed here on the front, but I have to say it's giving more of a white appearance rather than the usual metallic silver that we usually see on the Star Wars bases. There's just the tiniest little extra bit of plastic just under the lip here. You might be able to see that. Just a tiny amount, but of course when I put it on the shelf, that's going to completely disappear, so that's not too much of an issue. The logo itself is nice and straight. It's not sort of askew, and it's fairly well centered within the top and bottom of the nameplate there. And of course we've got the iconic sort of a tiered black circular base that all of the modern Star Wars Funko figures come on. Of course you can see the copyright text there on the underside. I really like this Watto figure. He's kind of a grumpy, grouchy character, but I think he's just really fun and an important character when you're celebrating the Phantom Menace. He is in so many scenes, he has some iconic lines, and I was really quite surprised to see him featured in the Funko Pop Vinyl collection. I thought they might have picked some of the other major characters, but really happy to see him in there. And I think they did a really good job with a lot of sculpting details, some really neat paint effects, really highlighting everything. I love that pose with the pointing finger. I think that that's just really fun. I think it really captures his sort of grouchy demeanor, and I'm really happy to see him celebrated around the anniversary of the film as well. So really happy to have him in my collection. There should be more Watto merch. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars Funko Pop Vinyl figure and had a lot of fun. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Funko Pop Vinyl fan, I've also unboxed the Duel of the Fates set of figures. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as a whole Funko unboxing playlist. This is the way.